Hey guys, welcome to Alasquatch. So, what I'm doing, this is my first live broadcast other than the launch party. And I had this streaming service, I bought a month of it, and I've still got some time left with it. So, I thought I would just record this episode live. And I'll still release the audio version, obviously. But I thought it would be kind of cool to use this streaming service and do something on camera, and we'll go from there. I thought it would be kind of cool, and just some house cleaning things before I get started. Obviously, I'm sure most of you are sick of me talking about my book. It is out. It's available. You can get the Kindle version on Amazon. You can buy the paperback version on Amazon. You can also buy the paperback version directly from me at my website, alasquatchpodcast.com. There's a little store there. We've got the book, some patches, and some other cool little knickknacks there that you can pick up. The shot glasses, we gave some away during the launch party. You can pick some of those up there. Unfortunately, because it's Alaska, I do have to charge a little bit for shipping. So if you want the book and you don't want to pay shipping, you can pick up Amazon. If you want it signed, but you got to pay shipping, you can buy it from me. Happy to send it out for you. Also, if you're going to be in Alaska and you're going to be in the Homer area, there's also a couple of local bookstores that are carrying it. The Homer bookstore and the Old Inlet bookshop are both carrying it. They both have autographed copies that you can pick up for the retail price. So if you've already sprung for the ticket, stop by and pick one up. Today's episode is going to, I got to mention the documentary as well. Bigfoot Encounters in the Pacific Northwest is available. Right now it's only on Vimeo, and it's available to rent or buy there. I don't believe it's going to be coming to Amazon. I just recently learned that Amazon, back in February, they've decided to stop accepting unsolicited content, which includes a lot of documentaries like ours. So Steven's looking into some alternative options other to Amazon than streaming, or some streaming options other than Amazon. So I don't really know where it's going to end up. It is on Vimeo though, so you can head over there and buy it or rent it. It's a pretty good flick. It's gotten some good feedback. Everybody that's watched it has really enjoyed it. I've watched it a couple of times. I really, I'm biased obviously, but I really enjoyed it. But yeah, let's get into it. So today's show is it's my review of Godzilla vs. Kong. We sat down the other day and watched it, my wife and I. And, I'm a big fan of monster movies, of, Godzilla movies. I have been ever since I was little. I remember seeing the original King Kong versus Godzilla and just kind of upset that Kong won. And, or no, was it the Godzilla? Because I heard there's stories that there is an alternative version out there with another ending. And one of the Crestwood monster books actually perpetuated that and said there was an alternate ending. And for years, I know myself and a bunch of other people have been trying to get a hold of that alternate ending, and to no avail, which I don't think it really exists. I think that was kind of an urban legend that the Crestwood monster series kind of perpetuated. So anyway, it's been years and years since I've seen it. I think the last time I watched it was probably on a VHS copy that I had recorded off a TV. So, but I've got a special guest in the studio with me today. He's going to help me review the movie. So as you can see, I've got quite the collection of toys here. I thought I'd pull him down off the shelf so he could partake in the festivities. But so the new Monsterverse that they're calling it, it started with the Godzilla, and then Godzilla King of Monsters, and then this movie that just came out this week. And I know it's fresh in my mind. I just saw it, but I think I have to say that Godzilla vs. Kong is probably my favorite one. And it's going to be some spoilers in here. Not huge major spoilers, but spoilers nonetheless. There's some characters in the movie that they kind of tried to keep secret, and they weren't really put on display in the trailer. So I'm going to mention that character, a big character for one. So if you kind of want to stay out of the loop, if you haven't seen it yet, you might not want to watch any further because I'm gonna get out there. I'm gonna get into some spoiler territory. But my biggest gripes with the 2014 Godzilla and the King of Monsters was I thought they just spent too much time with the humans, too much time telling the story from the perspective of the humans, and not enough, monster on monster action. And I think this one, and I'm going to sound hypocritical for saying this, I almost felt like this one needed a little bit more time with the humans. It's the shortest of the MonsterVerse movies. It's under 2 hours, like an hour and 50 some minutes. The rest of them are all over 2 hours. I think is it King of Monsters is like 2.5 hours. So this one, I'm convinced. In fact, I almost know for certain that there is another cut of this movie, or at least more footage of this movie that they could have inserted. I think the director's pretty much said so himself. He made the comment, I believe, that there was enough footage to have a 5-hour cut, but in that he also mentioned that most of it would be people talking about the monsters and not the monsters, themselves, not the monsters fighting, which is what the people want to see. So I feel like there's some important stuff that kind of got left out, some explanations, stuff like that. There seems to be a time jump. I don't think they ever really explain how much time has passed. But the first movie, the Godzilla movie, seemed like it was very much grounded in our reality. And other than the giant monsters running around, it was our world, our right now, time and place. But with this movie, there seems to have been a little bit of a time jump, and the technology. There's some technology in the movie that's just way beyond anything we have today, and the humans are at one point flying around in these like flying cars, and I know, it's a movie with a giant lizard and a giant monkey, and I'm complaining about the flying cars. I know, but I felt like maybe they could have just spent like a couple of scenes, maybe hashing that out a little bit better. How far in the future is this? Where did they suddenly come up with these flying cars that can travel thousands and thousands of miles, apparently? But, it's a small gripe. I was very entertained by the movie. Thought it was really good. I'm going to watch it again. And I felt that Godzilla, Kong is definitely, I would say, the main monster, the main character. We spend a lot of time with Kong. We learn more about Kong. We learn more about his past, I guess you would say, his environment he lives in. And then Godzilla is almost just kind of I don't want to say a footnote, but basically just like a force of nature that just comes in and does what he does. Not a lot of time spent talking about Godzilla or his past or his species even, which they did do quite a bit of that in the last movie, King of Monsters. So this was more like Kong's movie, I guess you would say. And something interesting I noticed in Kong Skull Island and in this movie, Godzilla vs. Kong, they've dropped the king from his name. And I wonder what's behind that. I wonder if it's just they just wanted shorter titles, or if there's they were just trying to avoid something with the word king. I don't understand that. I'd be curious to know what the reasoning behind that was with the studios to shorten his name just to Kong now. He's no longer King Kong. Is it because Godzilla's king of the monsters and they don't want to confuse people? I don't know. I thought that was kind of weird. But you could probably hear my dog snore behind me. I took him out and played with them, ran them pretty hard before I come in here to record because I didn't want them barking and causing a ruckus. But now they're back there snoring, sawing logs. So I really enjoyed the movie. Something else that I thought was kind of cool is it's one of the first. Let's see, we got a comment. Josh says, I agree. They need to add more human interactions in the movie. It should have been a 30 to 40 minutes longer. I don't know about 30 to 40 minutes longer, but I definitely think they could have. They needed just to explain a couple more things, drag some more stuff out. I felt like, well, we'll get into it in a minute, but I lost my place. What was I talking about? So we talked about them dropping Kong or King from Kong. I still don't understand what that was about. But I felt like, well, like Josh was saying, they needed to kind of explain things a little bit more. I felt there was a lot in the mythology of Kong that they left out. I'm don't get me wrong. I don't think they left it out. I think it exists. I think they filmed it. I just don't think they included it in the movie. I read an interview with the director where he said he doesn't like it when movies go over 2 hours. He thinks 2 hours is about the perfect length for a movie. And yeah, I mean, if that's his opinion, that's his opinion. I know studios prefer shorter run times so they can show the movie more times a day and get more people in. But I also kind of wonder, with the state of the world as it is right now with the pandemic, a lot of people aren't really going to movies. Movie theaters have reduced capacity. I know our local theater is only at 50% capacity, I believe. So I wonder if they're even here. Most of the new releases are going straight to streaming. So I wonder if that's even a thing they're thinking about anymore, is a runtime. I mean, who cares if it's a 3-4 hour long movie? People are just going to sit in their living room and watch it anyway. Case in point, the recent Justice League release, the Snyder Cut, it was 4 hours long. We sat and watched it pretty much in one setting. I mean, we sat down, turned it on. I think maybe we took a couple of breaks, but for the most part, we just sat down and watched it all the way through. So anyway, let's get back to Kong, who's the biggest Bigfoot of all, I think. I really think they could have expanded a lot more on the mythology of Kong. They really hinted toward a lot more going on with Kong and his species and his family, and they didn't really offer a lot of explanation. In the trailer, if you've seen the trailer, you've seen him wielding the axe. It looks like the blade is made out of the Godzilla spike, like one of these things. And that certainly appeared in the movie. He certainly wielded it. But there wasn't a whole lot of explanation given to where it came from. When I saw it in the trailer, I just assumed like Kong probably made it. That's not the case. He actually picks it up in the Hollow Earth and brings it up with him to fight Godzilla. And there's not a lot of explanation given to it. We get the impression that it was wielded by his ancestors, but that's about it. There's not a whole lot more that goes into it. And one could almost argue that's a good thing. Like, let us use our imaginations. Like, we're so used to being spoon-fed everything. Maybe it's a good thing that they left a few things out. We can fill in a few blanks in our mind and make the story better than, as good as we want it to be. So anyway, I felt that was something that could have been touched on a little bit more. I was a little confused by some things, like when we first get introduced to Kong in this movie, he's basically living under a dome. And I believe he's still on Skull Island, but they've domed it off. And it's basically explained as, well, we're protecting him from Godzilla, so Godzilla doesn't come, because Kong is, I guess, an alpha titan. I don't know how they determine what an alpha titan is. I guess they have maybe a test they give him, like a COVID test. I don't know. He's an alpha titan. So they say they've got to protect Kong, or Godzilla's going to come and attack him, because he's an alpha as well, and there can't be two alphas. And I couldn't help but wonder when they said that. I mean, this dome that he's living under, it had to cost like billions and billions of dollars. And I was like, why? Why are they protecting Kong from Godzilla? Why do they care? Yeah. But that was one of the things, like the resources used in this movie, if it was real life, I mean, basically they talk about getting Kong out of the dome and taking him to Antarctica so he can help them find the entrance to the Hollow Earth, which is something that they've kind of been building towards for the series, which I thought was good. You know, it was kind of a slow burn up to the Hollow Earth, which we actually see in this movie. And those of you that follow, you know, Fortean cryptid topics, no, that's an actual theory that's out there. People believe that there, you know, may be caverns that lead to large underground caverns where there may be creatures that we don't know about or haven't discovered yet, and that might be the explanation for a lot of strange creatures and entities that we see. And we've got a couple of comments. Jennifer says maybe continuous secret prequel. Yeah, I think they're probably going to be more, and that's something I kind of wanted to touch on. Is that I think that they could really, really, really take off with this series if they wanted to and build on it. You know, you've got your Titans, obviously, your big giant monsters like Godzilla. He's gonna wait, but they could also build on that and say, well, what about the smaller threats that Monarch deals with, like Bigfoot or, you know, chupacabras or anything like that. Like you could have a TV series that follows Monarch field agents that go after smaller threats, lesser titans or something that are basically cryptids. And then, you know, in your movies, you could deal with the big titans like Godzilla, Kong, stuff like that. That would be great. I mean, that would be a perfect world building, you know, like your Marvel universe sharing series. That would be amazing. I don't know. I know if I was a little kid and there was something like that out there, I would eat that crap up. I don't know how kids today would feel about it, but holy cow, that would be amazing to me. But Steven says he disliked the beginning. The beef that Godzilla had with Kong lacked depth. I do agree, and that's one of the things I was touching on where I feel like they didn't go into a whole lot of explanation with things. Like when Kong gets down to the Hollow Earth and he finds basically this giant cavern and the axe, I believe there was supposed to be more that we learned during that sequence where we learned that Kong's ancestors and Godzilla's ancestors, I don't know, actually had fought some kind of war or it had some kind of a beef in the past. And I think that was a lot of the stuff that was left out. But again, I think it's out there. I just don't think they put it in the movie. So, I mean, maybe they'll explain it in a sequel. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to go with it now. They've kind of built up to Kong versus Godzilla, and they hinted at it in some of the other movies with the cave paintings. I think where you saw like a Kong and Godzilla creature kind of fighting. So I think there's a lot more that they could expand upon with that, but I don't know that they're going to. I don't really know where they're going to go with it. Mechagodzilla, I thought was pretty cool. And Mechagodzilla is the character that they kind of left out of a lot of the marketing. He wasn't in the trailers. I knew he was going to be in the movie because I had seen some leaked toy images. You know, before they make these big blockbusters, obviously they want the toys to be available when the movie comes out. So the toys are always produced, you know, months and months before the movie comes out, and people get pictures of them. They post them on the internet. So I was pretty confident that Mechagodzilla was going to be in the movie, although I was wrong about how he was introduced. My theory was that I thought that the Godzilla that was going around attacking everybody was going to be Mechagodzilla, you know, like basically with like a T2 or T Terminator type skin over him, and he would be revealed later on in the movie to be Mechagodzilla. That wasn't the case. And I think if they had to put skin over their Mechagodzilla, I don't think he would have looked right at all. So anyway, I was completely wrong. So even though that part had been spoiled for me that I knew he was in the movie, I was still surprised at how he was introduced. And I'm not going to talk too much about how he fits into the movie, but I will say I believe it was the post credit scene or mid credit scene in King of Monsters that kind of explains a little bit more about him. If you didn't watch in King of Monsters during the credits, there's like a post credit scene. Keep an eye on that, and you'll kind of get a little bit better idea about where Mechagodzilla comes from, how he gets his powers, stuff like that. So it was interesting. It was not what I thought they were going to do, which, is a good thing. It's good to be surprised when you're watching movies, I guess. You don't want to go in knowing exactly what's going to happen all the time. But I felt there was a good mix of human monster ratio. I don't feel like they overdid it with the humans. And in fact, I think they probably could have drawn out the humans a little bit more. Oh, I remember what my thought that I was going to say earlier. This is the first major movie, the first like big blockbuster movie that I can think of in which, I'm sorry, she is sawing a log back there, in which podcasts are referenced and used. And what I'm talking about is the conspiracy podcast that the one character, Bernie, produces, where he talks about the Apex Chemicals, or is it Apex Mechanics, the Apex company, and the shady stuff that they're doing. And the character, Millie Bobby Brown, I can't remember her name in the movie, she listens to him religiously, like all the time. She's running around listening to his podcast. And I thought that was pretty cool because actually, believe it or not, there are people in today's society that don't know what a podcast are. I'll mention occasionally, like, yeah, I listen to this podcast or I host this podcast, and there's a lot of people that are like, what, especially older people, what are a podcast? And I was like, well, it's like a radio show, but it's on the internet. So I was kind of surprised to see that the movie, such a major blockbuster, had such a prominent role for a podcast in it. I thought that was kind of cool. I think maybe we're seeing podcasts are starting to finally become mainstream, generally accepted. It was a cool little shout out. It was a cool little shout out to the cryptid and conspiracy genre of podcasts, and I was happy to see it in the movie. And I hope we see some more like that. I actually like the character of Bernie quite a bit. Like I said, we didn't get too far deep in the woods with his backstory or any of that, which honestly, I liked some of the truncated stuff that they left with that. I felt like we could have learned a little bit more about Kong's history, but as far as the human characters go, I was happy. Let's see. Steven says the Bernie character made it as a serious investigator podcast. Remind me of how Woody Harrelson's character in the movie The End of the World with John Cusack. I don't remember the name of it now. Is it The Day After Tomorrow? I don't remember. Anyway, yeah, it was nice to see podcasts getting some major movie blockbuster shout out. So that was fun. I enjoyed that. And then we got plenty of good monsters. Actually, there was only really the two major battles. If you watch the trailer, you see Kong and Godzilla fighting near the water on the aircraft carrier, and then you see them fighting in Tokyo. And then there's a couple of minor battles in between, but not between those two. And that's pretty much about it. And, I thought the 2 hours went by pretty fast. I really think that they could throw in just a little bit more of the mythology, of the Kong mythology, and explain a little bit more about his ancestors and the origin of the battle axe. And I think that would be about it. That's about all I would say I would change, other than, and this is my big gripe. So, big spoiler. This is my big gripe with the movie, is how Godzilla, so he's standing in Hong Kong, right? And I'm not even sure why. Maybe because Kong activated the axe. I'm quite not sure what caused this. Again, I think maybe they could have expanded on this a little bit more. His Godzilla sense goes off or whatever, and he starts using his breath, his radioactive heat breath, and they're in the Hollow Earth, Kong and the main most of the one group of main humans are. And he uses his breath basically to tunnel down and shoots a beam into like Kong's living room down there in his chamber that he's in. And that almost jumped the shark for me. I was like, and then Kong climbs up through the tube and pops out in Hong Kong. And that was a little bit of a jump the shark moment for me, where I was like, come on, even in a movie with flying cars and giant lizards and monkeys, that that was almost too much for me. I know they had to get those two characters together in that scene at that time, but man, I felt like they could have come up with a little bit better explanation for that. But that was just a little bit too much for me. And also, I remember in some of the other movies, I seem to remember Godzilla had to wait a little bit and recharge before he could use his radioactive breath. And in this one, in this film, he just seemed to it was like a unlimited supply. It was available when he needed it, and there was no limitation on it at all, it seemed. And that kind of bugged me a little bit. But again, I don't think this is a movie you're really supposed to sit down and analyze too deeply. It's a fun popcorn movie. It's two monsters fighting out in the middle of a city. They make a short, like, if you blink and you miss it, reference to the city's been evacuated. Don't worry about it. So apparently nobody was killed in the battle, which is a good thing, which is kind of what they did, I think, with Superman versus Batman, the end scene when he fights Doomsday. They're just like, don't worry about that part of the city. It's uninhabited. So just so we don't worry about any collateral damage from the big bads fighting it out. But it's definitely worth your time if you're a fan of Godzilla or Kong. And my last probably gripe of the movie would be the very ending. I believe the director had gone on record as saying there's going to be a clear winner between Godzilla versus Kong. And I didn't really feel that way. I think my interpretation of what happened was Kong realized through his little girl that he hangs out with that Godzilla wasn't his enemy, and he helps Godzilla defeat Mechagodzilla. But then at the end, there's kind of a little face-off between Kong and Godzilla. They don't really fight, but they kind of, have a stare down. And it seemed to me that Kong submitted. I think he drops his axe and kind of, all right, you're good. And Godzilla takes off and goes back into the water. And I assume that means that Godzilla won, but I kind of feel like that's another scene that maybe could have been expanded upon, maybe with a little human commentary where one of the humans explains like, oh, look, Kong doesn't want to fight anymore. He submitted. So I don't know. I felt like the movie was a good length. I liked the short runtime, but there were just a few nuggets in the movie that I feel like could have been expanded upon, like Kong's history and that final stare down between the monsters. I would have liked to maybe see Mechagodzilla be a little bit more of a looming threat. He kind of just shows up at the end, and I mean, he's got very little screen time, and I don't think there's any chance that he's coming back for another one. So, spoiler. But anyway, those are my thoughts on Godzilla versus Kong. I think it was probably my favorite. Well, Kong Skull Island is really good. I'm not sure if Kong Skull Island is my favorite, or maybe that's why they removed the king from it. Maybe it's because Godzilla. Yeah, maybe because Godzilla's the king of the monsters. I guess Kong could be king of the Hollow Earth. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know if Skull Island's still my favorite or Godzilla versus Kong. I have to watch them again. I think I'd have to go with Kong Skull Island as my favorite, just because the music and the movie just has such a cool vibe to it. But I really enjoyed Godzilla versus Kong. Definitely going to watch it again. I can't say the same about King of the Monsters and the first Godzilla movie. Steven says Kong Skull Island is my favorite. Totally rock. It did. It was a great movie, and I think I think probably Kong was my favorite. But like I said, I'll have to watch Godzilla versus Kong again. Maybe I'll watch them side by side, have a monster movie weekend or something. But I don't really see myself going back and watching the the first Godzilla movie, and then I might watch King of Monsters if it's on and there's nothing else going on. But I could see myself definitely like popping in. Let's watch Godzilla versus Kong, or let's watch Kong Skull Island. I've watched Kong Skull Island like 3 or 4 times. So yeah, I thought it was a good flick. I hope they make more. I really would love to see them expand that universe. I'd like to see them expand that world and get more into more localized threats like Bigfoot or Jersey Devil or something like that. You can see those Monarch agents kind of almost like a marathon movie, almost like a X-Files type series, only the monsters are real and the monsters are out there. It's just how are they going to deal with them and what are they going to do and which ones of them are, like need to be taken care of and which ones just need to be monitored and maybe kept away from people. But yeah, I think it would be an awesome show. They just do a Monarch show and just deal with smaller threats, and then you could use the Titans for the big movies. Man, I'd love to see that. If anybody watches this or hears this, it's affiliated with Warner Brothers. Make that happen. I won't even sue you when you do it. So for stealing my idea, I'm sure they've already had it. Anyway, guys, I hope you liked my review. Hope I didn't spoil anything for you. If you get a chance, check out the movie. I really wish I had an IMAX theater within driving distance of me, because I would love to see it in IMAX. I bet it looks amazing. I watched it actually at home. We didn't go to the local theater and see it, just because they do have the distancing guidelines and they're at like 50% capacity, and we didn't want to mess with going, so we just watched it at home. We are eventually going to have to get back into the movie theaters eventually, though. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed my review. Please subscribe to the podcast, give us a like and review, and I will talk to you later with another episode of Alasquatch.